If you win the first 15 minutes of your day, you win the day. That is not motivational fluff, that is neurobiology. Your brain's chemistry in the first moments after waking acts like wet cement. It will harden into the shape you give it. If you spend those minutes scrolling, reacting, or stumbling into the day without direction, you are essentially programming your mind to operate on distraction mode for the next 16 hours. But if you use those same minutes to install the right neural commands, you can trigger a cascade of focus, energy, and precision that compounds all day long. This is the morning domination protocol, and it is built to give you disproportionate control over your mental state, output, and decision quality in less time than it takes to make breakfast. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your brain is not a steady machine that runs the same way all day. It is a chemical battlefield, and the fight is won or lost in the transition from sleep to wakefulness. In the first 15 minutes after you open your eyes, your neurochemical mix is uniquely malleable. Cortisol is naturally elevated, not the stress version, but the healthy wake-up spike that primes your system for alertness. Your acetylcholine levels are rising, which makes your brain's learning circuits more sensitive. Dopamine is waiting to be assigned a target, which means you can lock your motivation onto a mission if you act now. Ignore this window, and the opportunity vanishes. This is why so many high performers guard their mornings like territory. They know the first quarter hour is not just a routine, it is the control panel for the entire day's execution. The protocol is built on 3 sequential switches. Each switch takes less than 5 minutes. Each has a clear neurobiological purpose, and together they create a launch sequence for peak performance. The first switch is what I call state lock. Your brain will decide its baseline emotional tone for the day in the opening minutes. If you allow randomness, news headlines, notifications, or even idle worry to set that tone, you are surrendering control. Instead, you deliberately choose and amplify a high-performance state before anything else gets in. The fastest way to lock that state is through a combination of physical and sensory input. Stand up as soon as you wake, put your feet flat on the floor, and take 10 deliberate deep breaths, holding each for a moment before releasing. This oxygen surge triggers your vagus nerve to balance your nervous system, shifting you into an alert but calm readiness. Then, use a single sensory cue, music, a phrase, or even a physical gesture that you repeat every morning. Over days, your brain will start associating that cue with immediate engagement, making it a mental on switch you can hit at will. The second switch is direction lock. You cannot dominate a day without defining what winning that day means. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They start working without clearly deciding the top priority. Your brain's dopamine system craves a target, and if you do not give it one, it will find one on its own. Usually whatever feels urgent in the moment, not what moves you forward. In the direction lock, you define the single highest leverage action you must complete before the day ends. This is not a to-do list. This is one action that, if accomplished, makes the day a win regardless of what else happens. You state it out loud in a short command-style sentence. Today I complete the pitch draft, or today I finish the prototype. Speaking it out loud matters. Hearing your own voice declare the target creates a feedback loop in your brain's auditory and motor circuits, reinforcing the command. The third switch is activation lock. This is where you signal your body and brain that execution has already begun. Most people make the mistake of thinking about work before doing work, which keeps them in planning mode for too long. Activation lock breaks that inertia by performing a micro-action that moves your mission forward within the first 15 minutes of the day. If your mission is to write, you open the document and type one sentence. If it is sales, you send the first outreach email. The point is to cross the line from preparation to action immediately. Neurochemically, this produces a dopamine release linked to the mission, which makes your brain more likely to return to it repeatedly during the day. When you run these 3 switches in sequence, state lock, direction lock, activation lock, you are not just being productive, you are conditioning your brain to treat execution as the default state. Over time, this builds what psychologists call automaticity, the ability to perform key actions without willpower cost. The difference this makes compounds fast. If you start the day in control, you make sharper decisions. Sharper decisions reduce rework and wasted effort. Less wasted effort frees time and energy for higher value moves. And that cycle, repeated over weeks, puts you far ahead of those who start their mornings on autopilot. This protocol also has a defensive effect. When your mental state, direction, and activation are locked early, interruptions and unexpected problems have less power to throw you off course. You have already set the day's neural and behavioral trajectory, so returning to focus is easier. Think of it like setting a GPS route before you start driving. Detours may happen, but the system keeps pulling you back toward the destination. When you understand the science, you see why this works so fast. State lock leverages your body's transition from melatonin dominance to cortisol priming, which naturally happens within minutes of waking. By pairing that with controlled breathing and a repeatable cue, you are telling your nervous system, this is the baseline, and it obeys. Direction lock taps into your prefrontal cortex when it is at its most receptive, giving it a single dominant task to organize around. Without that clarity, your brain defaults to scanning for novelty and urgency, which is why people spend hours reacting instead of producing. Activation lock creates an immediate action reward loop. Even a small physical step tells your dopamine system that progress is happening, which drives you to keep moving forward instead of stalling in mental rehearsal. Some will say this sounds too simple. That is exactly the point. Complex morning routines collapse under pressure, travel, emergencies, fatigue. This one is designed to survive real life. You can run it in a hotel room, on a day full of back-to-back calls, or even if you wake up late. The key is not perfection but consistency. Repetition wires the response deeper until it is automatic. And once it is automatic, the cost to maintain it drops to near zero while the returns keep stacking. There is also a multiplier effect most people overlook. When you hit state lock, direction lock, and activation lock in sequence, you create a carryover of momentum into the first major task of the day. That task often finishes faster with fewer errors because you started in a chemically optimized state. Finishing faster means you can either move to the next high-value target or invest that saved time into recovery or strategic thinking, both of which feed back into higher performance tomorrow. This is how top performers consistently outpace peers without working longer hours. Their mornings are not just productive, they are engineered for dominance. But there is a trap you must avoid. If you allow external inputs, messages, social feeds, other people's demands into your first 15 minutes, you are effectively handing over the control panel. Your brain will wire those as the primary triggers for your state, direction, and activation. Even a quick glance at an email can hijack your dopamine towards someone else's priorities. This is why the protocol demands zero outside input until all three switches are complete. You protect those minutes like a vault. And here is the deeper advantage. By running this protocol daily, you are not just winning mornings. You are training your brain to recover control in any situation. Because once you know how to lock state, set direction, and activate on command, you can rerun the sequence at midday before a critical meeting or after an unexpected setback. You become less reactive, more intentional, and harder to knock off course. That is mental dominance, and it starts before breakfast. Now the question is, will you keep letting your mornings be decided by randomness, or will you install a system that guarantees control? The choice is yours, but remember, every day is won or lost in the first 15 minutes. Protect them, run the protocol, and watch how quickly the rest of your life starts moving in the direction you set. And if you are building an arsenal of mental codes for success, this is just one weapon. Subscribe to Success Code, and I will keep loading your playbook with the kind of high-leverage systems and protocols that turn ambition into measurable results, day after day.